What's up, guys? We are on day 3 of the Asian Readathon. It is May 3rd, Sunday. I haven't done any updates, but I do have a lot of updates to give. Mainly the reason is because I've been trying to implement a new skincare regimen because I'm getting older and my face is still a mess and hormones are a bitch. So after lots and lots of research, like several hours in a day, I bought a bunch of like K-beauty products to do the 10-step night routine, and I've slowly, because I have the most sensitive skin in the world, implemented each product in after like a week and a half of using a previously added product. And I had a really bad reaction to a specific product. So my face has hurt too much and has been super cherry red. So I haven't updated. There's my reasoning. And then we're gonna get into books because that's why you're here and what is way more interesting. Okay. So day 3 of the Asian Readathon. I've completed a book in typical me fashion. I have 3 others going. 3 others? 3 others going at once. So let's first talk about my first read of the Asian Readathon, which is If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha. I read this in 2 days. So I started it, I think I read like 75-ish pages on the first, and then I finished the rest of it yesterday. It does look short, but it actually does take a bit to read through. It's a little slow moving, but so like looks are deceiving, but I didn't want to put it down. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars out of 5. On Goodreads, I did round up to 5 as this is a debut novel, and considering that, I think it is fantastic. The writing is wonderful. And my only qualm with it in its entirety is that the ending feels very rushed, and the stories to get there are so involved and deep and wonderful, and you care so much about the characters, and then the ending just kind of, I don't want to spoil how it ends because this is a very character-driven story. So know that there's not really a plot point. There's no real climax. So how it ends could have had more impact if it had developed for another few chapters even. So that's my only thing, is that the end really was abrupt, and I think that the relationships made amongst the characters could have benefited from a little bit more work. That said, this is a story that takes place in modern day Seoul. It follows 4 different women, and they all live in the same apartment complex, and they're all of different ages. They're mostly very young adult women, so in their 20s, and then you have one character that's in her 30s, and which in Korea is quite old. And it's about that. It's about the fact that being a woman in Korea today is still really shitty. The beauty standards, like if you are not pretty, then you have to get surgery to look pretty, because if you're not pretty and you're not thin, then you're not taken seriously by anybody in society, especially men, also other women. And so we've got one of our main characters is Curie, and she works at a room salon, which is a place where like businessmen and rich men go with their like buddies, and they have the women that sit with them and pour them drinks, and they end up having sex with them even though they have wives and kids, etc. Curie works there, and she has done a ton of work on her face and her body, and can't imagine, like, she's super pretty. Then there is her roommate who wants to look like her and is like saving up for surgery, and she had eyelid surgery when she was younger and it was botched and she hates it and she needs it fixed and all this stuff. Those two focus very heavily on the beauty standards in Korea. Then we've got like another character who is an artist, and all of the stuff that goes on with her. She's not as focused on the beauty standards, but is focused on feminism in Korea. And then our last young character is Ara, and she is mute, and she works at a hair salon and is obsessed with a Korean celebrity. And then lastly, we have the 30-something-year-old who, she's got a very weird backstory. So they all have come from orphanages. So they had a really rough upbringing, and it's made them the powerful women that they are today. But you get to see what it's like for them to live the lives they've led and what it's like right now for them in Korea. And it was kind of depressing, but not wholly depressing. There's some trigger warnings for there's a lot. Abuse, infidelity, miscarriage, suicide. None of it is incredibly lingered upon, nor is it incredibly descriptive. so you're not spending a lot of time on any of those subjects. It doesn't get super graphic or anything like that, but those subjects are talked about, and that's kind of how it is through the whole book. It's just lightly depressing. Depression light. But I did really like it, and if you like character-driven stories, like if you've liked Normal People by Sally Rooney or Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff, I would definitely recommend checking out this book. I absolutely adored it, and I will read anything that Frances Cha puts out in the future. Okay, what to talk about next? Let's get one out of the way. It's kind of funny to say that I started this, but I did start. My hair is everywhere. 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. And by start, I mean I read the first chapter. And the first chapter was incredibly intriguing, actually. I really end up loving Murakami's writing style and the way that he crafts a story, even though they do go on forever. I don't anticipate finishing this month. We'll see how the days ahead go, because I am ripping through my TBR, which is unsurprising considering how I've been the past 2 months reading wise, and I could just end up focusing on this in the latter half of the month with like side reads. So we'll really see. I don't really count this right now because I've only read like 16 pages, and that's not a whole lot to speak on, but the first chapter was very intriguing, and it sounds like it's going to be a very surreal, magical realism situation, which is very common in his work, where the main character can't decipher what's true and what's false in her reality. That's what I've got from it so far. We'll see where it goes. Next, I'm reading Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This is the group read-along book. I got a digital copy as well on my phone, so that's why I started reading this alongside everything else I'm reading. I like to have an ebook and a physical book and an audiobook going at once, so that's, yeah. Anyway, I'm about 8% through, and I've seen the first 2 episodes of the TV show, and this isn't really a whole lot like it, except the character structures have stayed the same. Like, the rich white family is the same. It's the 2 parents and then the 4 kids, and the parents have the same jobs, so that's all the same. Renters that move into town that become like, I don't want to call them the protagonists of the story, but I guess for the sake of this discussion, that's what we'll call them. Mia, the single mother, and her daughter move in, and in the show, Kerry Washington plays Mia and her daughter Pearl, so they're both Black women, and in the story it doesn't seem as though they are so far. It hasn't said otherwise, but I would say that at this point I would know if they were, so that has changed, and I'm interested. This is the first Celeste Ng book I've read, surprisingly. I've always intended to get to her other books and just never have. So I'm liking the writing style so far, and I'm looking forward to where the story goes. Last but not least, what I started this morning, The Library of Legends. I can remember the name now. Legends by Janie Chang. This is a historical fantasy, which is what caught my eye in the first place. And then I read the first little like blurb that they give you on Book of the Month Club, and I had to have it, so I added it on. I think I got this when I got Beach Read, so last month. And so I'm 70-ish pages in, I want to say. The whole premise is that it takes place in China right when, in 1937, I believe, when Japan has started to infiltrate China to take over and has been bombing them. So our main character, Leanne, and her school are fleeing after some bombs are dropped right by her hometown. And their professor, because now he and the staff are responsible for these like bunch of seniors and juniors getting away to safety. I can't remember where they're trying to recoup, but Leanne's mother is theoretically heading to Shanghai, so that's where she wants to go, but that's not where her class is going because it's not safe anymore. And so she's just on this journey, and they've been entrusted with this library of legends, which are myths and folklore that have been passed down forever, and the books are very important, and the professor is like almost more important than the lives of these students. Like, that's how much they matter. They're transporting them, so everyone has one of these books with them on their person. And the thing that I was worried about is that it would be a lot of historical fiction with a slight bit of fantasy, but what's really cool about it is right up in the beginning, you meet a fantastical character that is amongst these students, and no one really knows that they're a fantastical character because only certain people can see the like slight glimmer that gives them away as something more. And so the professor sees it, and our main character Leanne sees it. And I like that it was given to us right away instead of finding out later. This is an adult fiction, even though we're following a bunch of 17-year-olds and adults. I feel like it's something you would see in YA, that it would be a big reveal. at the end, where you get kind of this feeling that maybe this character, her name is Sparrow, by the way, it's not a spoiler because in the first 2 chapters you figure it out, that Sparrow would seem a little off or strange, and then like near the end you'd find out that she was part of this folklore and legend, and she's got her own like thing going on. But no, they tell you right up what her purpose is and who she is. I really like that. I like that she's integrated right in the beginning as someone important, and that you know that only some people can see that part of her importance. Other people only see her as another human. And also she's like a servant to a rich guy named Xiao, and he is, I feel like we're gonna see Leanne kind of form a relationship with Xiao. He's kind of been looking out for her a little bit so far in their travels. But like Sparrow's whole point is that she's spent centuries trying to convince whatever form Xiao takes that they're like lovers, and the only way that she can take him and go back and be free to be the celestial being she is if he falls in love with her without her explaining that it needs to happen or like about their past. So it's very, very cool, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And I hope that the more updates I get and the further I get into this, the more I continue to enjoy it. I have a good feeling about it. I haven't seen anyone talk about it, so I'm excited to share my experience about it. That's it. Oh, real quick, I did get my book of the month books in that I picked for, what month are we in? May. I've only said it a couple times. So first and foremost, my main pick. Some months I like the books that I really anticipated specific books to be in book of the month. It happens often where I'm like, oh, I know this book's coming out this month and I feel like book of the month will have it, and then they don't, and I just don't know any of the books that are listed as the 5 options. Like I really expected Elizabeth Acevedo's, what's her new one? Clap? I don't remember. It has the word clap in the title, but it's another book in verse, and the Poedex is one of my favorites. So I was really anticipating it being there, and they've carried the Poedex and they've carried With the Fire on High, so I just figured she'd be a repeat author, and she wasn't an option. Their YA section seems to have just kind of disappeared. So I picked The Knockout Queen by Ruthie Thorpe. This is, a lot of people are going for like the New York mom story, and I can't remember what it's called, Happy and You Know It, I think. And it just didn't it didn't sit with me as something I would enjoy. Whereas this is supposed to be like a dark comedy about finding your identity and like living inside the body that you have and like being okay with it and being the person that you are. And it's about, the main characters are Bunny and Michael, and Bunny is like, this happens in California, and Bunny is like the popular pretty girl, but also like she's 6 foot and struggles with that on the inside. Like she's got a lot of insecurities. And then Michael is a man who is not out and isn't confident yet in saying that he's gay, but he's exploring the idea that he might be. So they're both kind of fighting their own demons, and apparently it's a darkly comedic story. I don't know. It felt like it was up my alley, and like especially because in my later years, now that I've like hit my 30s, I feel like I've gotten so much better at accepting who I am for who I am. Like I don't really care if someone doesn't like aspects about me. I'm not rude about who I am as a person, but I don't worry that people view things about me and don't like it. Like I used to really, really care about that stuff. I was not a popular kid in high school, but now I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna do my hair the way I want to do it. I'm gonna do my makeup the way I want to do it. I'm gonna have the piercings I want. I'm gonna like K-pop. I'm gonna, I don't care. Like I like what I like, and I am who I am. And I feel like that reading this, I'm gonna resonate with a lot of it. That's why I picked it. All right. Then, so on that note, my add-on was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This is actually Reese Witherspoon's book pick from last month. Book of the Month had it as an add-on, so I grabbed it because I've seen nothing but good reviews. I always check Goodreads when I'm adding extra books just to see if people I know and trust have read a book and rated it well. And Madeline over at Novel Inc., who's got excellent taste in books, especially nonfiction, gave this like amazing reviews, and that's what actually convinced me to add it to my cart. And this is a story, it's a memoir slash like self-help, and self-help is definitely not up my alley. Like it's so far not up my alley that I don't even know what alley it's on. But this is a book about again, like accepting who you are and realizing that you don't need to please other people in order to live a full life. And it's about tackling all of that, being able to just free yourself to be yourself, I guess. I have heard nothing but good things, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't know when I'll get to it. These are both books that I would like to read this month, but also knowing that I want to tackle 1Q84, they would be like books that I would like get to a page number in 1Q84 and then try and tackle some of these at the back end of the day. We'll see. In any case, isn't that a gorgeous cover? And this is a pretty cover too. And I can't wait till I can put them on my shelves. So that said, I do need to film my April wrap up now, which makes me excited because one of my favorite things to do is take my books from that pile right there, which is all my red books from the previous month, and move them to their new homes on my shelves. And that's what I get to do in about half an hour. So I'm gonna go prep for that, and you'll have seen that video before you see this video, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next clip. Hey guys, what's up? It is Friday morning, so if all goes well and according to plan this morning, you'll be seeing this video the same day that I am recording this moment. I've been really bad at vlogging this week. It's been quite a mess of a week. You know, we're going through some things, mostly the kids, baby ears. The kids are going through some things, so I've just been very busy between school and hanging out with them and trying to minimize how bad their behavior is getting now that they're quarantined with their family all day and not able to like go to parks and burn off energy, etc. So also still trying to fix my face. So we're going with a minimalist makeup May. How about that? It's something that I personally don't I don't like filming without having done my makeup a little bit. So like I do, you know, I'm not going to do any face makeup. I need time for my face to heal from when I burned it off the other day. And I'm just generally trying to fix it overall. So yeah, no makeup May, little minimal makeup May. All right, let's get into books because I have read 2 books this first week of the Asian Readathon, and I've started many others. My kids are supposed to be cleaning the room next door. It does not sound like they're doing that. So I did already talk to you about If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha, so you've heard all about that. This is the first book that I finished in the Asian Readathon, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I read and finished The Library of Legends by Janie Chang. This was a historical fantasy wherein Japan is bombing parts of China. This is happening in like the 1930s, and the school of children are trying to move to safety, but they're also protecting these like tomes that are folklore and just stories and legends rooted in their culture. And I liked it. I give it a 4 star. I think that there was a lack of depth in character, so that I didn't really care about the people in the story or what was happening to them specifically. I did appreciate the sprinkling of fantasy throughout it. You did get glimpses of these gods that were within these legends, and you are alongside one of them the whole time, as well as the person that she is mortalized. She's immortal, but she's become human to live the lives of her love through all his reincarnations. You get to see her the whole story, so that was a very cool aspect of it, is following this girl Sparrow, who is really this specific star in their legends, and that was super cool. The journey itself was all right. It just isn't, it's not going to leave a lasting impression on me. I'd give it more of a 3.5 star, and I rounded up to 4 stars because the writing is really well done. It's very, it's not too purple prosy, but it is very well written, and the pacing was fine. I just didn't connect to it emotionally the way that I anticipated. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but it's more of a 3.5. I think that it is an interesting look at like a lesser known aspect of the war that happened in China because of Japan, but it just didn't really grip me the way that I thought it would. There's a reveal in the end that is quite cute, and I still didn't really, I didn't have an emotional reaction to it. I don't really know how to say what was missing from it, but something was missing. So that said, let me explain the few things that I have started this week that will be the main focus of next week's vlog. I decided to finish up the Princess Jellyfish manga series. I only have 4 to go, so I am about a third of the way through volume 6. This is, if you've been here a while, I've talked about this a lot, especially last year, but it is the story of a bunch of women that live in this one building and one of the girls' mother owns it and wants to sell it to a development that will develop a high-rise there instead, because the mom wants to move to Korea and follow all her K-pop idols and her like K-idols. And the group of girls that live there are what are called neets. So they all have these like very niche interests and they're very socially not with it. So like they don't like fashion, they don't like all the things that like normal social people do. And this one guy who likes to cross-dress has infiltrated their little happy home, posing as a woman because they don't like men either, to try and help them prevent the loss of their building because he has feelings for one of the girls there. And he is like the prime minister's son, so he is a very important political figure, but he's just not the right kind of person to have that role. So it's very fascinating. Like it's a weird plot line, but I really enjoy it and I'm excited to see where it's going from here. I can't really talk about what's happening in volume 6 because at this point there's like 5 volumes of story that come before this, but excited to finally finish it because I've given them all 5 or 4 stars. I think only one volume got 4 stars and it's just because it was kind of boring and nothing really happened. It just progressed for like further plot development, but I'm enjoying this one so far and obviously I intend to finish it this week and maybe start volume 7. It'll really depend because I also started my buddy read with Amy, who I will link down below, of The Green Glass House by Kate Milford. Now, I had suggested the buddy read thinking that the Asian readathon was only 2 weeks long and not the whole month. So then I felt kind of bad because I want to focus on mostly Asian authors. And then I started so I'd planned it and I started reading it yesterday morning, try and read it in 5 days. So I am here. There's our breakdown. This morning I read our pages already. Turns out that the main character is an adopted Chinese boy, so it worked out in the end. I was very happy about to find that. And this is a story, it's a middle grade story. It's like a mystery of this kid Milo, the adopted Chinese boy, and his parents own this inn called the Green Glass House. And it's winter, like we're right at Christmas time, so they're supposed to have this vacation time where no one comes and stays at their inn, except all these mystery guests have shown up, and Milo has this idea that they might all be hiding secrets, and he kind of gets the impression that some of them may know each other, and things start going missing from the inn that belong to these guests. So he and this other girl that her mom works for the inn as the chef, start playing a game where they're trying to figure out what this is all about. And there's a lot of background to the house and the story. And I have an inkling, like they haven't straight up said it, but it seems as though his friend, this girl that's the daughter of the chef, I don't think she's real. Like I don't think anyone sees her. It doesn't seem like that's the case. That's my prediction. But I'm enjoying it. It is very cute. It turns out I have like a niche little thing for stories that take place in inns, apparently, like The Shining and Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. And this, I apparently like stories that happen in like one setting, one house. So I'm enjoying it and I'm having a good time reading it with Amy. And so this will be like one of my main focuses next week, but it should be done by what day? Monday, I think. So look forward to my thoughts on this in next week's vlog. Then here's a big surprise. I didn't think that I would actually tackle this as much as I have, but I had thought maybe I would try and get to 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami, and I am like a third of the way through. I am so gripped by this story. Obviously, if you know Haruki Murakami's work or you've ever read anything by him, they all have a very similar concept in that he's not afraid to talk about literally anything. He is a magical realist writer, and all of his stories have a variety of trigger warnings, from pedophilia to sexual abuse to suicide. It runs the gamut. So if you've never read a Haruki Murakami novel and those are things that you don't like to read in your work, he's just not for you. He is one of my favorite writers though. I don't know, he's just got this way of telling a story. They're all very in-depth, almost too in-depth, but I really like it. This story is told from 2 characters' perspectives, and they're two very different stories. One girl is kind of, we'll just call her an assassin. She like kills men in a very specific fashion, but they all have something in common, and that is that they like beat their wives senseless. So she kind of works for a person. It's like this weird underground thing. And then the guy is a writer, and he's like rewritten a book that is written by a 16-year-old girl. And it's a fantastical book, but she claims it's real. Like these little people in the book and the two moons that are in the sky, they're all real to her. And there's a lot of mystery going on with her, and he's trying to kind of figure it out and write at the same time. It's a very Murakami book. It's just, there's a lot going on and none of it really makes sense, and you don't really know where it's going. But as I said, I'm a third in and I'm incredibly invested, and I didn't think that I would actually be able to tackle this. But here we are. That's it. So I've read 2 books this week of like a TBR that started out as 5 and is like increased to 10. I don't know. This coming week, I intend to finish The Green Glass House, Princess Jellyfish Volumes 6 and probably 7. I will get further into 1Q84. It is unlikely I will finish it this coming week, but you never know, I suppose. And next up, I will be starting a buddy read with Lacey over at Lacey D. Bell, and we will be reading The Downstairs Girl by Stacey Lee. I'm excited to read this. It's been on my TBR for a while. I think we'll be able to get through it pretty quickly. We have a very minimal goal this weekend of reading about 50 pages. Lacey does not read a lot on the weekend, whereas I'm the opposite. I read less during the week and more during the weekend, so we'll see how it works out. That's changed since quarantine started, actually. I used to be the same as Lacey, but now with school and teaching, it's just not possible. But I'm excited to get started on this. And last but not least, there was this whole conversation that happened on Twitter amongst authors where, who started the conversation? I wish I remembered. I don't think it was S.A. Chakraborty. I don't think that it wasn't V.E. Schwab. Who the fuck was it? God, I wish I remembered. But an author, a female author that writes fantasy, had this thought process of like, what would it take for a female fantasy writer to be categorized as an adult fantasy writer and not a YA fantasy writer, when women can write really violent and sexual and adult fantasy and still be put in YA categories simply because they're women. And this whole conversation happened, and I loved reading it, and I loved these powerful women talking about it, and I really wish that I fucking remembered who started the conversation. In any case, an author chimed in, and because of what she synopsised her book as, I bought it. And it's gonna work for the Asian Readathon. And that is Jade City by Fonda Lee, who I just, for the first time in my life, watched Goodfellas, the mob movie, and loved it. And I do like gang, mobster, mafia stories, but it's one of those things that like I can only take so much of it. Like I started watching The Sopranos a couple months ago and I stopped in like season 2 or 3. It's too much. It's too much all the time. But Fonda Lee talked about how this was a mobster story and like that there's violence and it's told from a male perspective, like a male point of view, and it just, the way that she said it, I'll insert a photo right here of what she said. I was sold. I put it on my Amazon wish list, and then like the next day it dropped in price a little bit, which I hate saying that. I haven't been buying from Amazon, but we made a big order for a bunch of things and I just threw it on the list because I was sold and it'll work for this readathon. So I've added another thing to my list. Okay, that is it for me as I went on this long rant. Week 1 is done. I've only read 2 books, which it's not a lot for me, but I am like tackling some big stuff right now. So I am proud of that. And next week should be just as good, if not better. And that's it for me. Happy Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Let me know down below if you are loving what you're reading and what is it that you're reading, especially if you're participating in the Asian Readathon. And that is it. Like if you've liked this video, subscribe if you are new here and would like to see more content from me. I post all my social media links down below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. I hope you're having a great May so far and that you're getting some sunshine. All right, have a good one, guys.